Take a look at the reading workbook first. Gonna take a look at the last passage first from the homework. What page is this? Cambrian explosion.
124.
124. 124. Okay, 124. Let's take a look. Okay, so I don't know what the Cambrian explosion is, but the title says oxygen boost aided carnivore evolution in Cambrian explosion. Okay, so oxygen boost, just talking about an increase of oxygen, probably. So this is me just guessing, reading the title. It's not strictly speaking a cause and effect, but somewhat a cause and effect. Okay, somewhat, right? Carnivore evolution. Okay, what about passage 2? It says, okay, so is this the first time we're reading a dual science passage? Yeah, so okay, when you get a dual science passage, chances are they're going to disagree directly. That's usually the case when you get a science dual passage. Because that's pretty much all you can do. So one person's usually gives like a conventional view or offers some kind of theory, and then passage 2 is just going to attack that. It's usually like this. So you can't read passage 2 first, usually, because you're not going to know what passage 2 is saying unless you know what passage 1 says. Okay, so usually you need to go in this order. Okay, so let's take a look. Passage 2 says, discovery challenges theory behind reason for Cambrian explosion. Okay, so you can guess that this is going to be the oxygen boost. Okay, I mean, you might be wrong, but you can take a wild guess here. Okay, so we have that sense of expectation. So passage 1 is going to argue that the oxygen boost aided carnivore evolution, just going to explain that, probably. Okay, explain how they came to this conclusion, right? All right, so that's my expectation. Okay, so let's take a look. It says the major groups of modern animals. Okay, so my expectation is, at least in the beginning, he's not going to talk about anything so crazy. He's going to just give us some background information regarding, I don't know, the Cambrian explosion or the carnivore evolution, right? So it's going to be some background, at least. Major groups of modern animals, everything from insects to creatures with the backbone, popped up 540 million to 500 million years ago. Okay, major groups, I'm just going to say they're going to be the MM popped up here, right? So that's our definition, right? But they, in turn, define this as the Cambrian explosion, right? In a proliferation, what's a proliferation? Okay. Did you guys memorize this word list? Was this on your list? You didn't. You guys didn't get the vocabulary list for this?
No, we did. That word didn't appear on it.
Huh?
That word didn't appear on it.
This word wasn't here. Okay. Okay. But why didn't you guys look it up if you don't know what it is? Then. Okay, honestly, that vocab list, it's not even supposed to be there. It's there to help you save time. Okay, the whole purpose is you looking at the words and you looking it up. Okay, you guys need to look it up. Like it's stupid. If you just look at a word and you don't know what it is, why would you go over it? Like, it's beyond my imagination. Now, even middle school students, like if they don't know a word, they would ask or they would look it up. If you're not looking words up when you're studying for the SAT, that means you're not going to do it forever. You're just going to live like that until you die. Why? Why? I don't understand. If you don't understand a word, look it up. Look up the word. I don't understand. Honestly. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? In life. Why? I don't understand. It's crazy. It's so crazy. It blows my mind. Honestly. Look it up, all right? Honestly, look it up. It's crazy that I even have to tell you guys this. Why? I don't get it. Do you like being ignorant? Do you like being stupid? Is that why it is? Okay, so proliferation is increase. Okay, so 540 million to 500 million years ago, there was some kind of proliferation. So major groups of modern animals appeared then. That's the definition of the Cambrian explosion. So, okay, this is 540 million years ago. This is 500 million years ago. So during this time, okay, so the number of animals, I guess, they were kind of steady, or I don't know, they were increasing a little bit, but right here, just kind of exploded. That's what they say. That's what a proliferation is, right? So this is, and they call this the Cambrian explosion. So this, you do need to understand, okay? Because it's just a simple defined term here, okay? And then it says fossil and molecular evidence. Okay, so what, I'm going to treat this as people, right? They have a point of view. Hint that the most primitive animals appeared 100 million years earlier. All right, so it said earlier. If I said earlier, what is that? Okay, it's a comparison. So what is it? What earlier than what then? Earlier than what? Okay, if you haven't thought about this, if you did not mark this, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, probably the most important thing that we've been looking at are comparisons. When you see this, you're going to mark it, okay? When you see a comparison, you're going to mark it, and what are you going to think about? Standard and what? Two things that are being compared. If you can't answer that question, it means you did not think about that. That's not reading. That's not reading. That's just looking at the words. Okay? Comparison means you're comparing two things. You're looking at two things side by side according to a standard, and you're making a statement based on that. Okay? So earlier than what? What are our possibilities? That's it. That's the only thing you can say, because that's the only time period we mentioned. That's the only time frame that we've discussed so far. Okay? So earlier than something, what happened? Most primitive animals. Okay, and then leading scientists. Okay, so that's a cause and effect, right? So because of this, leading scientists, what happened? Leading scientists to wonder about the cause of the lag. Wait, that's a question, right? What scientists wanted to find out? That's a question. Okay, so this becomes a rather simple passage then, since we know what the question is, okay? Well, first of all, let me ask you this. What's a lag? What does it mean to lag? Yeah?
It's like fall behind.
Yeah, fall behind. Don't you guys use this word all the time when you're using your, oh, my computer is lagging, right? 렉 걸렸어. My computer is lagging. That's what it is, right? What does it mean lag? Your input's there, right? You're trying to do stuff, but the computer's not computing, right? It's not following your orders. Like there's a delay between your inputs and what's happening on screen, right? That's what a lag is. So this is the lag, right? This is the lag. This gap is the lag. So scientists have been wondering what? So the most primitive animals appeared here, but why? Why did it take this much until the proliferation happened? That's what they were wondering, right? Okay, but it's the cause of the lag. So it's the question is just why, right? Why did this happen? Why did this happen? That's the question, okay? That this passage is going to try to solve, okay? Does it give us a direction sentence? Okay, not yet. There might be or there may not be, okay? If there's not one, okay, I mean sometimes they can even, okay, sometimes even this happens. So they give you the background. Okay, so let me talk about the default format first. Okay, so they talk about the background, and then they ask a question, and then they answer that question, saying, okay, you know, a new study suggests that this is why, kind of thing. And that passage is just going to be pretty easy. It's just going to be how they arrived at this particular conclusion, right? But this may not be here. If this is not here, then they're just not going to give you the answer. They're just going to lead you on until the end. They might give you an answer here, right? Like right in the middle. And if they do give the answer right in the middle, why would they give you the answer right in the middle? You need to think about that. Because they have other stuff to talk about, right? So if they give you an answer in the middle, it means the passage is going to take a turn, right? There's some kind of turn in direction, and they're going to say, okay, so this is why, but how does that happen? What's the mechanism behind that? And then they would explore that for the rest of the passage. So if the answer shows up in the middle, you better be ready for a transition, okay? But if it doesn't answer that in the middle, it can potentially do that towards the end, right? I mean, if they do that, then the passage is even more simple, right? Even simpler. It's just going to be this passage getting to this answer, right? Okay. So let's think about this, right? So this is the question, the cause of the lag. Okay, and then let's go. But when you're reading though, like, I mean, if you've seen the title, oxygen boost aided carnivore evolution, so it must have something to do with the oxygen boost. I know this is going to come into play, but because this is the only thing that we haven't talked about, I guess we didn't talk about this either, but we did talk about this, right? But we didn't talk about these two things. So probably it's going to be these two things in play that's going to answer that question somehow. Okay. Anyway, it says now, right? All right. So it's going to be some kind of recent study. Now scientists have stitched together earlier theories. All right, so this passage is not a new study, if you think about it. Is there a study? No, I don't think so. Because what did they do? They just looked at the earlier theories, and what did they do? They just put it together, right? They just put it together to come to a comprehensive explanation, right? So we don't have an experiment, we don't have a study, but we do have an explanation as to why this lag occurred. Okay, so and then it says Eric Sperling, an earth scientist at Harvard University, and colleagues say an increase in oxygen in the geological record at blah 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 allowed carnivores to evolve. Okay, so I don't understand how. Well, this doesn't does this answer the question? No. Why? Because the question is, why did this lag happen? But this only got to carnivores evolve. We still need to go to lag, right? We still didn't make this connection. So I'm still looking for this. But at least this is the first step, I guess, right? And this is what's been mentioned in the title, so I guess this is going to be pretty important, Okay, so increase in oxygen, carnivore evolve, right? So that's what happened here. And then it says the oxygen boost could have accommodated the high energy cost. I don't care. Why? Because this is just explaining this, right? How this happened. Well, they had high energy costs, so the oxygen boost helped them compensate for that. Yeah, okay. So this is how it happened, but I'm not really concerned about that. What I'm concerned is making this connection. So carnivores evolved, but why did that cause the lag, right? Why did that cause the lag? That's my question, right? Okay, and then it says, once carnivores arrived, an evolutionary arms race broke out. Okay, so let's think about what an arms race is, okay? Actually, I'm not going to talk about that. Let's pretend like we didn't understand that. We don't know what an arms race is. This is not a vocabulary thing. It's more like common sense. But if you don't know what it is, it's fine. What would you do? If you don't know what an arms race, what do you need to do? You just continue reading, okay? I'm asking the same question over and over again, okay? We're always doing the same thing, like every class, basically. So you need to know. I mean, we're just going to look this as a defined term, right? We don't know what it is. I'm just going to look for what it means. What does an evolutionary arms race mean? Broke out between predators and prey, the team suggests. Okay, the team suggests. Okay, so this is probably something important. So the evolutionary arms race is the significance, but I do not know yet what the evolutionary arms race means. Okay, and then it says, as prey evolved new defenses and predators developed new weapons, new kinds of animals sprung up. Oh, okay. So this is probably the arms race, right? They make new defenses and the predators make new weapons, right? What's an arms race? Now that we know what it is, it's usually, okay, so, you know, like during the Cold War, do you guys know what the Cold War is? Okay, so during the Cold War, there's the USSR and there's the USA. So let's say the USA makes 4 nuclear warheads. They would make 5. Then the USA would in turn make 6. And they would make 7. They would make 8. This is an arms race, right? It's saying that kind of thing happened between prey and predators, right? So at first, the prey, they don't want to get eaten, so they make wings. They evolve wings. So now they're running away. But the predators evolve wings also. Or they develop weapons to catch prey with wings or something like that. That's going to be the arms race, okay? And then as that happened, new kinds of animals. Oh, okay, there we go. So this kind of connects to the proliferation. Do you see? Right? New kinds of animals, so that's probably going to talk about the, that kind of indirectly hints at the proliferation of the species, okay? So it's good if you see this. If you don't worry about it. It's fine. They didn't mention it directly yet. Maybe they will, or maybe they won't, in which case it wouldn't matter that much. Okay, so let's go on. And then it says support for the oxygen carnivore theory. Okay, so I guess that's a whole theory that we just read, right? The whole theory is this: oxygen boost happens, and then that's going to make the carnivores evolve, right? And when the carnivores evolve, the prey is also going to evolve, and then new kinds of animals are made, right? And this is the proliferation. So it's probably going to take some time until this happens, right? Because evolution doesn't happen overnight, right? It's probably going to take millions of years. So that's why there's this, okay? You don't need to know this, by the way. You don't, because they didn't connect the dots like iliri for you, right? So let's just take a look here. Oxygen carnivore theory, support for the oxygen carnivore theory comes from modern peas. Okay, I mean, I know this is not an experiment or a study, but it seems like I can treat it like this, right? Why? Because they looked at a certain species, and then they're going to come up with some observation maybe, and then they're going to connect the dots somewhat. So let's just say, why don't we say that this is our process, right? for the support, right? We looked at modern peas. So what are modern peas? They're just earthworm relatives. Okay, well, I don't care. Combing through data from previous studies on peas, examined 900. Okay, actually now this is going to be a full-on study then. Okay, they examined 962 worm species. Okay, well that's not exactly a study, but whatever, right? I mean, he did something, right? So this is his process, right? From 68 locations. Do we need to underline this? Okay, don't get the impression that you need to underline this. I mean, you could, as long as you just do this. Okay, this is the process. The researchers found a clear association. Okay, so this is our result, right? Do we know what the clear association is yet? No. But I do know what an association is. What's an association? It's a correlation. It's a relationship between two things, right? That's an association, okay? So something is going to be related with something, right? That's going to be what it is. The number of carnivore species was lower in areas with the lowest oxygen levels. Okay, so oxygen goes down, number of carnivorous species go down. So this is the correlation. This is our result, right? Do you know what this means though? I mean, do you know what this means? I mean, I can kind of guess because it's pretty obvious in this case, but I wouldn't on purpose. I mean, I know what it is. I mean, we've been talking about oxygen, right? So if the oxygen is low, the number of carnivorous species was low. So that's why this supports this theory, right? I mean, it's kind of easy, but I mean, you don't have to think about it. Just take in the words if you're confused here, okay? And then it says, in some of these regions, predatory. Okay, what's wrong with this? Okay, in some of these regions, predatory peas were completely absent. Okay, well, it's saying, well, in some cases, like it was pretty extreme, right? But I don't really care. And then it says previously, okay, previously. All right, so old, right? Previously, scientists either invoked an oxygen increase or an arms race to account for the Cambrian explosion, says GN. Okay, actually scratch that now, previously. Why? Because this is just what a guy says, right? You guys know what I mean, right? This whole thing is just a quote about what this guy says, okay? Okay, so am I towards the end of this passage? Wait, just a second. What? Okay, we're towards the end of the passage, so I can possibly think to myself, okay, this is gonna be some kind of reaction, right? This guy's reaction, but not so sure. This guy didn't say anything about this study. He just said, okay, previously they did this. Linking oxygen to carnivores provides strong evidence that the explanations are intimately related. Okay, so this guy just agrees, right? Okay, so what happened? What should you do when a person agrees? We talked about this before. Okay, so let's say you're reading a reaction paragraph and a guy agrees with the main study. What should you do? Yeah, just note the fact that he agrees, he or she agrees, and throw out everything else. This is extremely important. Throw out everything else, okay? I'm so serious, okay? If you get caught up on detail, you will get a question wrong, okay? So if it's an agree, just throw everything else, just note the fact that he agrees and move on, okay? Do not ever, I do, like, okay, if some kind of detail shows up to support that agreeing statement, I don't care, okay? Don't account for that. It will only confuse you, okay? What about, okay, so let's go to the next part. It says, NB. Butterfield, blah, 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 sees the data differently. He thinks the rise of oxygen was actually an effect of the animals on the environment. Okay, so this guy disagrees. Okay, so what do you need to do when you see a disagree reaction? Yeah.
You have to note why they disagree.
Yeah, and that's it. Throw out everything else also, okay? Do not get caught up on detail, okay? So, okay, I need to show you something. Okay, so, okay, guys, close your eyes first. Wait. Note what you chose for number 51 and close your eyes, okay? Okay, who chose A? B? C? D? Okay. Okay, open your eyes. All right, so note that. So if you see here, there's this, okay? There's this. There's this detail, okay? And this is going to confuse you when it comes to question 51, okay? You're just going to think to yourself, okay, I remember seeing that. I remember seeing that in the disagree paragraph. So that means shallow marine areas is going to come into play somewhat. No, okay? That's not how you should see it. You should throw away all the detail when it comes to reaction paragraphs. You're just thinking about if they agree, good, that's the end, right? If they disagree, you just need to find out why they disagree, and that's it, okay? Just leave it at that, okay? It says he thinks the rise of oxygen was actually an effect of the animals on the environment. So this person doesn't think it was the increase of oxygen that caused the carnivore evolution. He thinks it's the other way around, right? So this is why he disagrees, right? And then it says he contends that shallow marine areas where early animals most likely lived were probably well oxygenated, and therefore lack of gas did not stifle their evolution. This is just support for this statement, right? But when you go to question 51, you see this shallow marine area lurking here, and you just think, oh, wait, I think I've seen that, and you just get confused, okay? So don't do that, okay? Just note the general points in a reaction paragraph, always. Just cross it, scratch it out if you have to, like stop yourself from looking at those, okay? Okay, so that's passage 1, right? Okay, so let's talk about passage 1 for a second, okay? So passage 1, was basically, okay, in the beginning, it asked us, okay, why did this happen? Why did the lag occur, right? That was why, that was their question. And then we go into the study, not the study, they kind of stitch together earlier theories, and then they come up with an explanation, and that explanation was this. In a nutshell, is oxygen increase, and that led to carnivore evolution, right? And that led to prey evolution, and that meant new species. And this is called the oxygen carnivore theory, I guess, right? And then how did they support this? They studied modern peas, right? Modern peas, and they found a correlation, right? And what was the correlation? When the oxygen was lower, the number of carnivores was lower, right? So and so this supported this, right? And then at the very end, we have a reaction. We also have an agree reaction, but I don't care about that. I have a disagree reaction by a guy named NB, right? And then what did he say? He said, this is not the case. It's actually the other way around. It's the evolution of carnivores that caused the increase of oxygen. Okay? All right, so let's go to passage 2. Passage 2 says, okay, when you're reading passage 2, you always need to put passage 2 in a conversation with passage 1. So you need to read everything in reference to what you have. If you identify a part that's closely related to what passage 1 says, like let's say, for example, you read, a study did this, blah, 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 and you think, oh, this is what passage 1 said. It's exactly what passage 1 said. You should be marking those kinds of parts. Okay? Okay, so let's take a look. Ample oxygen saturated Earth's atmosphere prior to the sudden eruption and development of life known as the Cambrian explosion. Oh, okay. All right. So, did he say it caused it? No, he just said prior to. So you need to be careful. He's not necessarily suggesting that. Okay? It might be, but it may also not be. So it's not a must be true, right? Just saying something happened before this, but what does it say? According to a study. Oh, okay. It's not what passage 2 is saying. It's what a study is saying, okay? A study says something happened before, something happened after, right? Okay, so let's take a look. Led by an international team of researchers, the report reveals that the oxygen content was roughly the same 2.1 billion years ago as 500 million years ago. All right, so the report says this, right? The report reveals a comparison, right? What's the comparison? What's the comparison? What's the comparison? Well, yeah, what are the two things that are being compared?
The oxygen content from 2.1 billion years ago and 500 million years ago.
It's saying the quantity, okay, not quantity, but the content was the same, right? Okay, so it's this versus this. The finding challenges a long-held theory. Okay, so we do have a long-held theory, right? So box this also, right? What does the long-held theory say? Long-held theory says that the Cambrian explosion was in part triggered by a sudden uptick in the element. What's the element? What does the element refer to? Oxygen. How many elements did we talk about? Only one. That's our only possible option, right? So long-held theory says what? Sudden uptick in the element, oxygen increase, triggered Cambrian explosion. Isn't that what passage 1 said? So this, a long-held theory, is what passage 1 says, right? But this passage 2, is talking about how another finding challenges passage 1, right? How does it challenge it? Because it says the oxygen was the same 2.1 billion years ago and 500 million years ago. Okay, so let's think about this. When's 2.1 billion years ago? Somewhere like here, right? It's way up here. So if the oxygen was same like here and here, why would it happen here? Why would the proliferation happen here? It doesn't make any sense, right? That's how it challenges it, okay? So let's go to the next part. Now, I guess we're talking about the study. So this passage, although it did not have a direction sentence, it's talking about the study that challenges, right? Challenges passage 1, basically. The theory mentioned in passage 1, right? The oxygen carnivore theory, okay? So it says we have examined rocks, okay? So I guess this is their process, right? I'm going to box the person's name. Researcher from the Nordic Center for Earth Evolution at the University of Southern Denmark said in a statement. They show us that, what's it going to be? If we say show, what's it going to be after this? It's going to be the result. There was oxygen in deep water and thus also in the atmosphere at that time. Okay, so oxygen was basically present, right? Oxygen was present when? 2.1 billion years ago, right? And then it says, we cannot say exactly how much, but there was probably ample oxygen and also ample time to permit advanced life to evolve. Okay, so this is his significance, this part of the quote. He says, we had so much time to make them evolve, right? So it's I don't think it's necessarily this picture, right? That's what passage 2 is saying. And then it says, previously, the team discovered a series of unique fossils. Okay, so if you see previously, you just want to check if it's an old and new, right? Because if you see previously, okay, you would see something. I mean, if it's an old and new, you would see like recently or something like that, but you don't. So I'm just going to go with it. It says that the team discovered a series of unique fossils. Okay. So this was a process, but this, I guess, is also a process, right? Unique fossils from the same site, they suggest represents evidence of a specimen that attempted to evolve into a multicellular life form. Okay, so they found a fossil, and in that fossil, they found something that was going to evolve, right? That attempted to evolve. I have no idea what this entails, right? Because I'm not a scientist. I just see this, I don't know what it is. And same for you too. Okay, and then it says, it was not a life form that in any way is comparable to large life as we know it today. All right, so this doesn't do me any good. Well, so what? I don't know. You need to draw a conclusion for me in order for me to know. It was rather microbes. Okay, so good, okay, fine, it's microbes, but what? What does that mean? Like, what does that entail? What does that say about how this study challenges passage 1? Like, it doesn't say anything about that yet. It needs to make that connection for me. And that experimented with the way to evolve into some form of multicellular existence. It had enough oxygen for the experiment, but its destiny is unknown. So what? Okay, enough oxygen, but they didn't evolve. Okay, so now they discuss it. One possible reason. Okay, so now they're discussing this. One possible reason for the apparent eruption of the life 540 million years ago. Okay, so let's talk about this. So we talked about this before. You guys remember what apparently means? What does apparently mean? Yeah. Similar, but not exactly. Okay, allegedly means according to other people, right? So someone says, right? According to blah blah blah, right? Allegedly, but it is kind of similar because we talked about these together, right? So, what does supposedly mean? Same, but similar to allegedly, right? supposedly, someone says, right? Supposedly, he supposedly left. That means some people tell me that he left. It may or may not be true. We don't know about that, right? But he allegedly or supposedly left, okay? What about apparently then? What does that mean? Yeah.
It's kind of believed to be.
Believed to be no. Yeah, it seems like. Yeah, that's what it is. Apparent means if you make something apparent, that's something totally different. If you make something apparent, that means you visualize it, so you can see it now. If you make something apparent, it's kind of similar to making something obvious. But if you say apparent eruption, it means it looks like an eruption. Okay, this is extremely important, okay? Like, if you don't get this part, you're done. Like, you're not going to get at least the two important questions, the curve breaking questions, that the curve setting questions that you're supposed to get right. This is the key inference that you need to make. And that all depends on you knowing exactly, if you think apparent means something that's set in stone, something that's 100%, something's sure, then you might take this in the wrong sense, okay? So it says, one possible reason for the apparent eruption of life 540 million years ago. So it's reason, so it's a cause and effect, right? The scientists suggest is simply an absence of fossils. All right, so let's think about this. This is a simple cause and effect, right? So what's the cause? The cause is no fossils, right? So absence of fossils. No fossils, no fossils. So what's the effect?
Apparent eruption.
Apparent eruption. Okay, so very simple, right? We don't have any fossils, so we think it looks like there was an eruption. That's what it is. The key is here. Is the passage suggesting that the eruption happened or no?
No.
Okay, do you guys see that? Okay, if you don't, you get one more chance. Okay? In the next sentence. Because it kind of lays it out for you. It kind of explains it for you. What does it say? An organism that lacked bones or a shell would be unlikely to leave any kind of trace, right? So it's saying, yeah, they just didn't have bones, so no trace, right? So is it saying there were no species? No, it's saying there might have been a lot of species, but it's just that they didn't leave any fossils. So people look at the fossils and think, oh, there were no species. But in actuality, there were species. So there was no Cambrian explosion, right? There were actually this many species to begin with, but it's just that they did not have any bones, right? They did not have any bones. So later on, when they see the bones in the fossils, they think, oh my God, so many species all of a sudden. That's what they think, okay? You guys get it? All right, so, and then it says, not only does the discovery potentially rewrite the history of evolution, okay, what is this paragraph? What is this paragraph? Implication. It's talking about why it's important. It's talking about why this study is so significant to us, right? So it rewrites the history of evolution, but it also offers a new narrative regarding Earth's development. So I just stopped reading here because it's just talking about an implication. It's just talking about why this study is so important and it means a lot, okay? So let's go to the first question. It says, passage 1 most strongly suggests that Sperling's work helped to address which question? Very simple. It's just asking us the question, okay? So, wait. Why don't you guys close your eyes? Who chose A? B, C, D. Right. Okay, open your eyes. Okay, so more people got this question wrong than right. Okay, so what was the question? Can someone tell me what the question was? Passage 1's here, right? What's the question? Cause of the lag. So basically, okay, you need to think. This question is actually asking you, hey, do you mentioned the lag? Do you know how to read a compressive noun? That's basically what this is asking you. This question is asking, okay, can you figure out what the lag is? Yes, right? What was the lag? Happened earlier. And in order for you to understand this compressive noun, you need to be able to read that comparison, right? Do you know what I mean? When we had that word earlier, right? So we're talking about the time period, right? Okay, so if worse comes to worse, you should know that we're at least talking about time, right? At least we're talking about time, so you should choose an answer choice that has to do with time. Which one is that? D. Why did the Cambrian explosion occur when it did rather than earlier? Okay, you know what this is rephrasing? This whole thing is rephrasing the lag. Basically, D is saying, why the lag? That's it. Why the lag? Okay, so if you got this wrong, you need to check your micro reading skills again, okay? Because you didn't get that comparison or you didn't get that compressive noun, okay? That's exactly why you got it wrong, okay? What about this? Strong and then strong evidence. That's what it says in the passage, right? Strong evidence. Is it strong evidence? Okay, so strong evidence. So I'm just going to try to replace this, right? It's pretty easy. Competent evidence. Okay, so what does competent mean? Yeah. What? No. What?
It's like capable.
Yeah. Okay. Same as competition, right? Competitive or competition, competent, someone who can compete, someone who is capable to compete. That's what it means, okay? So we don't use competent for evidence. We use competent for people, to describe people, okay? There's no evidence that's competent. You have competent students, competent athletes, that kind of thing, right? So no, A is gone. What about B? Willful. Can evidence have a will? They have wills? No. Persuasive. Possible. Evidence could be persuasive, right? Energy. How much energy does an evidence have? It doesn't make any sense. So persuasive. Butterfield would most likely agree. Okay, so Butterfield, what do you need to know about Butterfield? The only thing that, as soon as you see this, you should think that it's not the oxygen that caused the carnivore evolution. It's the increase of animals that caused the increase of oxygen, right? It's the other way around, right? So that's what you should be looking for here, okay? If you have a disagree reaction paragraph, they're always going to ask you this question in one way or another, okay? What would Butterfield say, or what would he agree, or what did he say, right? So they're always going to ask you this, okay? So let's take a look. With which statement about Sperlings? Yeah. So what will he say? He's just going to disagree, right? That's for sure. So if I say something positive, that's the wrong answer, right? It accounts for most of the existing data relevant, but requires. Did he disagree because there was no additional data? No. It's because he got it all wrong. He got it backwards. It overlooks evidence suggesting that the explosion was a very sudden event. Does it overlook evidence? No, he's just saying you got it backwards. You got the logic backwards. Presents a phenomenon as the cause of the explosion when that phenomenon was in fact the consequence. Okay, so he got the cause and consequence wrong. That's why it's C. What about this? So you just need to choose an answer that that directly talks about that cause and effect. Okay, so where is this? Where is this?
42.
Is it 42, 43, or is it 43, 47? I don't know. Guys, what is it? It's an honest question. Like, honestly. Okay, what? Okay, it's 42, 43, right? Oxygen was actually an effect of blah, blah, blah. Okay, roughly, okay, I'm not going to do this. B, approximately. 48, which choice best supports the conclusion that the researchers in passage 2 think the evidence cited blah, blah, blah may have been misinterpreted? Okay, may have been misinterpreted. So you need to choose an answer that has to do with the significance at least. It needs to be the part where they discuss some kind of conclusion. You can't choose a part where they're talking about a process or they're simply discussing some kind of result. You need to think, I mean, you need to pick a part where their insight is kind of added, right? So what about 63 to 67? What does it say? We have examined rocks. So this is the process, right? So that's exactly what you do not want to find, okay? What about 80 to 81? 80 to 81, one possible reason for the, what? Wait, am I looking at the right question? 80, it had, yeah, it's here. It had enough oxygen, but its destiny is unknown. All right, okay, it's just describing that fossil, so this isn't doing much either. 82 to 84. Okay, one possible reason is simply an absence of fossils. Okay, that's good, right? The scientists suggest, so it's the significance, right? So this is the part where, I mean, this is the important part, right? Apparent eruption. The cause of the apparent eruption is simply an absence of fossils. This is what happened, right? So this is possible, but I do want to check 88 to 89. No, okay, so that's the last paragraph where we're discussing the implication, so that's not it. So it's C, right? Last paragraph of passage 2. Okay, so you just need to choose an answer choice that says what? Implication, right? I mean, of course, they're not just going to say implication. Like they're not just going to give you one noun. They're just going to lay it out for you. But I want to choose an answer that suggests at the implication. Why this study is so important. Why should we care about this study, right? Provide an expert corroboration, no. Acknowledge an exception, no. Point out the scientific significance, there we go. Why this is important for us. That's what an implication is, right? Why we should care about that scientific study. So C is the right answer. Concede, no. Primary purpose of both passages. Okay, so who, okay. Choose C. A? B? Okay, so it's D. Role of oxygen in the Cambrian explosion, okay? So what does passage 1 say? It played a key role, right? Passage 1 says it played a key role. What did passage 2 say? It did not play a role, right? Okay, why is C wrong? Whether the Cambrian explosion actually took place. Does passage 1 talk about this? No, it takes for granted that the Cambrian explosion happened. It's not even a question. They don't even discuss this. They're like, oh yeah, of course it happened. It's just the premise of passage 1. So they don't advance a position. They just take it for granted. It's always there. B, changing geological, what in the world? Like, where is this mentioned? Like, I have no recollection of ever reading about any kind of changing geological condition. Describe, because, okay, if you read a change, you always need to annotate it. Like, there could be change over times that happen like this, or there can be a before and after, like a sudden change, right? But regardless, I always annotate changes in a passage, but I don't remember anything about geological conditions. A, describe fossil evidence. Okay, of animal species that emerged during the Cambrian explosion. Okay, well, this is just not true. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's not true. Okay, like, no one did it. Literally, like, not even passage 1 and passage, neither. They didn't. Okay, 51, a significant difference in approach. Okay, so difference in approach. Let's just read. Okay, so what does passage 1 do? Use data about existing animals. Okay, what would existing animals be then? I mean, yeah, I do remember them talking about some modern peas, right? So this is okay. And oxygen levels. Okay, they did talk about oxygen levels. Like the low oxygen levels, they supported a particular conclusion. Whereas researchers described in passage 2 use fossil evidence. Okay, they did, right? Okay, so this is different from A, by the way, because I mean, in question 50, it's during the Cambrian explosion, fossil evidence during the Cambrian explosion. This didn't happen because they looked at fossil evidence that was from way before the Cambrian explosion, right? That's why I said A is wrong, by the way. But they did use, passage 2 does use fossil evidence. Remember, we marked that as the process 2, right? So there is that. And data about past oxygen levels. Okay, so that's, I feel like this is okay. Okay, what about B? Focused on the relationship between predators and prey. I mean, you could say that. I do remember reading this. I mean, although I don't know if that's the significant difference, but I do remember this, so I'm just going to leave this. Whereas the researchers described in passage 2 assume that, okay, like from the moment it's talking about assumptions, like I'm not going to choose this. Why? Because it's talking about a difference in approach, and why is it talking about an assumption? Assumption is something that's not said. Why? I don't care. But anyway, I mean, even if you let this go, the next part is so ludicrous if you look at it. Relationships between Cambrian predators and prey are impossible to reconstruct. Well, what does it mean, impossible to reconstruct? We can't make that happen again. Well, why are we talking about that in the first place? Like, they never discuss anything like this, right? Restricted their study to species that lived during the Cambrian explosion. That's not true. They studied modern peas, so it's not true. D, measured the level of oxygen only in shallow marine. Okay, so we talked about this, right? As soon as you see shallow marine areas and you recognize this, you're in trouble, okay? You should not recognize it. That's how it should be. But I mean, why? Because this was in the disagree reaction paragraph. Or actually, was it in the agree reaction paragraph? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Either way, you should let detail in reaction paragraphs go. Let that go, okay? So, no. What about 52? Okay, so this is asking us again about Butterfield. So what's the only thing that you need to know about this guy? He's the guy who said the increase of animals caused the boost in oxygen. Right? Okay, so that's the only thing, okay? Don't make any assumptions about this guy. And don't, like, you know, you read it and it's like, oh, wow. It's talking about cause and effects. He's a very logical person. I'm just going to choose an answer choice that has the most logical structure. No. Just choose an answer choice that says this and this only, okay? That's it, okay? A says, suggesting that the evolution of modern animal species occurred earlier than what? Did he talk about time periods? Then he had to assume. Did he talk about time periods? No. B, describing a viable alternative. Well, how would he know it's a viable alternative? Did anybody choose B, by the way? Okay, if you chose B, it's way too much, right? Basically, what you're saying is this. Okay, I think this guy is really accepting of other views. This guy is a really accepting guy. Like he he considers a variety of different point of views. Like he considers a lot of different point of views. So he's going to say, huh, I like your opinion. Huh, it's a viable alternative. Yeah. How do you know that? How do you know what kind of person this is? The only thing you know about this person is this. And you need to stick to this. So B, no. C, arguing against his belief. So it's possible as long as what shows up? This. As long as this exactly shows up here. Early animals lived in shallow marine. Okay? So who chose C? Yeah. So if you chose C, it means you read this. Okay? If you just didn't read this and you just shut off your brain and you just did this, you may have gotten it right. You know what I mean? Okay? So when you're reading reaction paragraphs, again, the reason why you chose C is you were reading a reaction paragraph and you read the detail and you got stuck on that and that piqued your interest. Okay? So don't do that. Supporting his claim that the evolution of early animals was not impeded by a lack of oxygen. Yeah. So what is D saying? It's saying this cause and effect was not the case. So probably this. So D is right. Okay, so why don't we take a break? Okay, so the essay section, notice, okay, take a look at the first page. Okay, on the first page, it's at the very top of the page. Okay, what does it say? As you read the passage below, okay, so the answers are like, I mean, the secret's all in the question. It tells you what to do, okay? What does it tell you? Consider how Paul Bogart uses, and then it says, blah, 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 right? Okay, so circle how. Consider how Paul Bogart uses, okay? So did it tell you what to read carefully? Is that what they told you to do? Read carefully? Did they tell you to figure out what he's trying to say? Did they tell you to figure out his main idea? No, they tell you to figure out how he uses all these different things. Okay? How does he use it? How does he use it? Okay? So it's not a question of what, okay? It's not a question of what. I don't care what the passage says. They give you the main idea. They give you the main idea on the second page, okay? If you take a look on the second page, at the bottom of the second page, okay, take a look at the second page. Guys, take a look at the second page. On the second page, at the bottom of the second page, it says, write an essay in which you explain how Paul Bogart builds an argument to persuade his audience that natural darkness should be preserved. Okay, that's his main idea. Natural darkness should be preserved, okay? Don't try to figure out the main point on your own. It just tells you the main idea is natural darkness should be preserved, okay? So, how does he advance his point? What strategies does he use? That's what it's asking you, okay? How does he use his strategies, okay? Let's think about, okay, let's think about an analogy. Like, has anybody been to a magic show before? You seen a magician do magic? Yeah? Who's never been to a magic show? Never? I mean, you would imagine what it would feel like though, right? Okay, so when you go watch a magic show, how would you, what are your thoughts? You're just like, wow, it's fun. That's it, right? Wow, it's fun. Literally, that's how you feel if you go to a magic show, right? But imagine you were a magician too. You perform magic too, okay? Then you go to a magic show. What would it feel like then? Would it be fun? Like would you just be like immersed in the experience? Would you be be surprised at all the tricks and stuff? No, you would. What would you be looking at? Like, oh, how is the show structured, right? What kinds of tricks does he use, right? That's the mindset you should have. Okay? Not just on the essay section, but on the reading section also. Never have a reader's mindset. You're not here to have fun, okay? Always, you're reading with the writer's mindset, okay? You know how to write yourself also, okay? As a writer, you're trying to figure out what kind of tricks he's using, okay? What kind of tricks? I'm not going to go over all the tricks one by one. Rather, we're just going to go over the passage and we're going to be talking about what kind of tricks he uses, okay? And then after that, we're going to be talking about how you should structure your essay, okay? The general structure of your essay, and how you should advance your arguments and that kind of thing, okay? So let's take a look. So we know the main point is what? Main point is natural darkness should be preserved, right? Very, very simple, actually. This is a lot easier than our reading passages, actually, okay? So when you're reading, do not have fun when you're reading, okay? What do I mean by have fun? I know none of you guys have fun reading, but by fun, I mean being immersed in the text, okay? Do not care about the text. Snap yourself out constantly, okay? Step back. constantly, as you're reading each sentence, ask yourself, well, why did he make that choice? Why did he not do this? Well, if I were writing this, I would have written this differently. Why did he choose to do this? Why did he make this choice instead of another? Okay? So think about that. That's what you should be thinking about. So let's take a look. At my. Stop right there. As soon as it said at my, I should stop. Okay? Because what did he do? Okay? Imagine yourself writing an essay on this. Natural darkness should be preserved. How would you write it? Okay? Personally, I would come up with facts and evidence. You know, I hate like emotional appeal and that kind of thing. But how did he start? At my family's cabin. Is that like a scientific argument that he's making in the very beginning? Okay, that's how you should be thinking. What is he doing? What is he doing? It's not what's he saying. What is he doing? Okay? So that's what he's doing right now, right? He's talking about I guess it could potentially be a personal anecdote. Okay, then now it comes down to this. If you figure out what he's doing, if you figure out how he advances his argument, then you should think about what the consequences are. If he makes a certain choice, that's going to entail an effect on the part of the audience. Okay, so that's going to elicit a response in the audience. Okay, but a lot of you don't discuss that. Okay, you just say, okay, he uses this. He uses personal anecdotes. But okay, think about this. If someone uses a personal anecdote, what kind of effect would that have on the audience, on the readers? Or what is he at least trying to do if you're using a personal anecdote? What kind of effect? Okay, think about it this way then. Scientific facts, or like a study, citing a study, what impact would that have on the reader? Personal anecdote versus scientific evidence. Impact on the reader. What's the impact? Think about it. What is it? Yeah.
Scientific evidence logically appeals to the reader.
Okay.
While personal anecdotes emotionally appeals to the reader.
Okay. Then what's the difference between a logical appeal and an emotion? What do you exactly mean emotional appeal and logical appeal?
What it means by logical is like the reader is able to like comprehend what because there's going to be a claim about when you're using scientific evidence, so they're able to comprehend why exactly, straight down to facts why this claim is true. While personal anecdote is more of like just being kind of immersed into what the author exactly feels in that certain situation.
Okay. Then what would be the why would one choose to use an emotional appeal rather than a logical appeal, or vice versa?
Because sometimes, there's some readers who could have value certain virtues like being moral and all that. So having an emotional appeal can kind of touch them and convince them that there needs to be some sort of change, or they need to do something. Because they might have a realization from the emotional appeal.
Okay. Yeah. Good. So, what I want to say is, when you're think about it in very simple terms. If you're making if you're making an emotional appeal, if you're talking about your personal anecdote, if you're using imagery rather than facts, if you're just doing like a language play, or trying to if you use connotative diction, all that kind of thing, that's inviting the readers to feel like the writer, or they're trying to sway you in a certain way, right? It's kind of a cheap shot, actually, if you think about it, right? But anyway, okay, so let's take a look here. So he's talking about his family's cabin, and then it says, "I knew woods so dark that my hands disappeared before my eyes." Okay, so what's a choice that he made? He said, "My hands disappeared before my eyes. So dark that my hands disappeared before my eyes." Was that necessary? He could have just said, woods were very dark. I couldn't see anything. My hands disappeared before my eyes. Okay, right? That you know, he's just trying to be a little bit more descriptive, right? So he's trying to invite the readers into his experience, right? I mean, I doubt, you know. Oh yeah, okay. I wouldn't talk too much about this. Okay, let's go on. And then it says, I knew night skies. Right. Okay. So I mean, he's talking in a parallel structure, right? I knew woods. I knew night skies. Right. Okay. So I mean, people like me, I would be extremely impatient, and I would hate this kind of reading. I would just move on. Okay, he's talking about the same thing. Move on. Right. But what is he saying? I knew night skies in which meteors left smoky trails across sugary spreads of stars. Okay, right, let's becoming too much, right? This guy with all these S sounds and being cute, right? Okay, you see what he's trying to do? Okay, is he talking about like scientific facts or anything? No, he's not trying to make that appeal. He's just trying to invite the readers into his experience, right? He's just trying to tell the readers, okay, feel like me. Hey, feel like me. Hey, darkness, really good. Hey, have you experienced this? It's really good, right? And then what does it say? But now, okay, so now he draws a contrast with that, right? So everything that we've been doing in reading, we see here, right? We see a contrast with all that, all of his personal experiences. It says, but now, when 8 of 10 children born in the United States will never know a sky dark enough for the Milky Way, I worry we are, okay. So let's think about this for a second. A lot of you, when you're writing an essay, you talk about statistics a lot, right? Do you guys? Have you guys written essays before? Like SAT essays? Yeah? Who has written an SAT essay before? Okay. Well, okay. Anyway, why would you mention statistics? Okay, it adds credibility. 8 of 10 children. Okay, does that add credibility? Okay, if my goal was to add credibility, what would have I done? I would have said where I got this statistic, right? According to, and then reputable organization, right? According to reputable organization, okay, so is it exactly 80.88000%? Is this what he's talking about? No, he rounded it up. And he didn't use numbers. What did he say? 8 of 10, right? 8 of 10 children. Why did he make this choice then? What's he trying to do? Think about that. Instead of using numbers, and he didn't mention the organization. He just left that out, where he got that statistics from, right? And he just said this. Why would you say this? Why would he say this? Someone. Yeah.
To kind of further his point, well, to basically show and like tell the readers that there's gonna be like 8 out of 10 people who won't experience the same thing I did. So
Well, that's not a. You're just repeating what he's saying. Okay.
yeah, so he's trying to make some kind of impact, like some kind of emotional impact, or like some sort of not exactly like a logical impact because it's not like heavily backed up, but maybe more of like an emotional impact, saying that these children will experience the same thing as I did, so
Okay.
it can hit their
Yeah.
By not using like those heavy like numbers, he's trying to make the text more approachable for the readers.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. So he sacrificed his formality and credibility, right? And what did he choose instead? Instead of using numbers, he's using children, right? So then it seems like You think about the children you know when you look at this, right? He's not actually talking about numbers. He's actually talking about actual people. And that can make it more relatable for people. So he's not going for credibility here, right? So if you say he's going for credibility, you're wrong because he's not. You know what I mean? And he doesn't want to muddy the paragraph by including names of organizations and whatnot. He wants to keep it pure, right? He wants to keep it really clean and poetic and that kind of thing, right? Okay, so let's take a look. And then what does he say? Born in the United States will never know a sky dark enough for the Milky Way. Was that the name of the survey? Really? Percentage of children who will never know a sky dark enough for the Milky Way. But is that like a study title? No, right? He changed it like this also. Like what do you feel when you see that? Oh, I'm sorry for these kids. They, I remember when I was young, I saw all those stars and they can't now, right? And then it says, I worry we are rapidly losing night's natural darkness before realizing its worth. Okay, I have a problem with his word choice also, okay? What in the world is natural darkness? What in the world is natural darkness? Like, I honestly have an issue with this. Like, what's natural darkness? I mean, if it's darkness, yeah, it's darkness. Artificial darkness and natural darkness? Why would he bother using the word natural so much? Why would he use this? Why would he be keen on using this so much? What kind of connotation do you have with the word natural? Positive, right? So he wants us to feel like, okay, so then if we're getting rid of this natural darkness, what does it feel like we're doing? It feels like we're polluting, right? It feels like we're doing something wrong, right? This guy, man. This winter solstice, as we cheer the day's gradual movement back toward light, let us also remember the irreplaceable value of, okay, same for that. Same for this word, right? So you want to circle all these connotative dictions, right? Diction. Irreplaceable, right? That's a strong word. So you should also take note of that because we can use it later on when we're discussing diction, okay? Okay, and then you go to the second paragraph and then what does it say? All life, all right, so I stop, okay? When it says all life, I stop. What is it? What is he doing? What is he doing? Like, what makes you an expert all of a sudden? Why are you talking about all life? You were talking about your family's cabin. Why are you talking about all life? Are you some kind of scientist? Are you like I don't know. You can talk about this now? Okay, why haven't I been using this? Okay, it says all life. Think about this, right? I mean, okay, but take a look at this. All life evolved to the steady rhythm of bright days and dark nights. Okay, now, is this an emotional appeal now? Is this what he's been doing in the first paragraph? No, he's switching gears now, right? Now he's trying to do something else. Now that he grabbed our attention with this emotional appeal and that kind of thing, right? With all the language and stuff, with all the diction, now he's talking about us. Well, this is actually a fact. You can't. It's really hard to argue with this, right? They evolved to the steady rhythm of bright days and dark night. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a fact, I guess. If you, like a general fact. I mean, I guess you could argue with it if you don't have a conventional view, but And then what does it say? Today, though, Today, though. All right. So this is a fact. Or I would say this is some kind of natural law, right? He's presenting this as if it's some kind of natural law, right? They evolved this way. But what does it say after this? Today, though, when we feel the closeness of nightfall, we reach quickly for a light switch. All right, so it's as if we're breaking that natural law. Doesn't it feel like it? Like him putting this sentence right after the fact that he mentions, right after he mentions this natural law, and now he's talking, okay, but we don't we're actually breaking this steady rhythm, right? Okay, feels like we're doing something wrong. Okay, what does it say? And too little darkness, meaning too much artificial light. All right, so take a look at this. Okay, notice he said natural darkness here, right? He's been presenting darkness as natural, and now he's talking about light, and he's in particular artificial light. Do you see this contrast? Which one do you think is more desirable? Natural darkness, of course, right? I mean, but it's mostly because of the diction that he chose, right? If he didn't choose natural and artificial, if he just said darkness and light, light sounds better, doesn't it? Okay, so these are the devices he's using. This is how he's trying to persuade his audience, right? These are the tricks that he's using, right? Okay, and then, okay, we go to the next paragraph, and he's talking about the World Health Organization. So now, I mean, I don't know, like, this guy has no consistency in his tone whatsoever, right? What's he been doing? Like, I mean, there are some passages where the tone is really consistent, right? But what is he doing? Like, in the first paragraph, he was making all that emotional appeal, and now he had this little contrast here, and now he's talking about the World Health Organization. Now he's trying to build, like, credibility. Now he's trying to mention the facts, that kind of thing, right? Okay, so what does he do? Classifies working the night shift as a probable human carcinogen. Okay, what does carcinogen mean? Something that causes cancer, right? Okay, so this guy's actually weird. He has a flaw in his logic, if you think about it, okay? What is he trying to argue? Natural darkness should be preserved, right? But what does he say here? Working the night shift, human carcinogen. Does that have to do with darkness? No, actually, if you think about it, like, this guy sucks, honestly. Like, I don't know what he's doing. But, you know, we're not supposed to be pointing that out. I mean, later on, I guess he could make that connection. But you know what I mean, right? Okay, so what do you think carcinogens are good? No. Okay, like, it's terrible. Like, you just look at this, like, a probable human carcinogen. It's like, oh wow, that's really bad. Get a negative connotation attached with that, right? So what are the positive words that he's been using? Like natural, blah, blah, irreplaceable versus carcinogen, artificial, right? That's the contrast that he's been making. And then it says, American Medical Association has voiced this unanimous support for light pollution. All right, take a look at these word choices. Light pollution, right? So now he's saying pollution outright, right? Instead of, like, artificial light, light pollution, as opposed to natural darkness, irreplaceable value, right? Reduction efforts and glare reduction efforts at both the national and state levels. And then it says, our bodies need darkness to produce the hormone melatonin. Okay, so this is a fact, I guess, right? Now he goes on to mention a fact which keeps certain cancers from developing, and our bodies need darkness for sleep. Okay, so you see this logical reasoning here? Our bodies need darkness in order to make melatonin, right? And in order for melatonin to be there, you need darkness, right? So it's like deductive, his reasoning. You see what I mean? Like, step by step. Sleep disorders have been linked to diabetes. Now he's talking about this correlation, right? Sleep disorders are related to what? Diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, and depression, okay? So, why bother listing all of these? Okay, think about this, right? I mean, I mean, you could have just said, sleep disorders have been linked to various diseases. Couldn't you have said that, right? Various diseases, yes? But why bother mentioning all of these? Yeah?
It gives like a more negative effect.
Yeah, more negative effect. And if you think about it, what are these? diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, depression. It's the most serious diseases like in the United States or like in the world, like in most of the countries, right? Most serious problems, right? These. And recent research suggests one main cause of short sleep is long light. Okay, so he's talking about one main cause. Well, so in the end, he makes that connection, but it's rather weak if you think about it, right? But anyway, whether we work at night or simply take our tablet, okay, same here. Why does he talk about tablet, notebooks, and smartphones? Why bother mentioning all of these? Instead of saying electronic, like he could have just said electronics, right? Why does he say tablet, notebooks, and smartphones? Yeah.
To make each word more impactful. Like,
Okay, that's not saying anything. Okay, that's something you should avoid. No offense, but that doesn't carry any meaning, right? Impactful, right? That doesn't mean anything. Yeah.
Like people actually use these devices.
Yeah.
It's not-
Okay, people actually use these devices, right? Okay, if you just say electronics, people might think, okay, well, I don't turn on the TV at night, you know? I don't use the refrigerator at night, right? But I know you guys do, and he's saying this, right? I know you guys take these to bed, right? I know not everyone does, but he's taking that bet, right? Okay, so it's for relevance, right? It's for relatability. So people see this and they feel like, oh, you know, yeah, I've done that before. Yeah, I looked at my smartphone to bed sometimes. I looked at my smartphone in bed sometimes, right? I've read my tablet lying in my bed, blah, 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 that kind of thing, right? There isn't a place for this much artificial light, right? So these are the connotations he's attaching to these, right? Okay, and then it says, the rest of the world depends on darkness as well, including nocturnal and crepuscular species of birds, insects, mammal, fish, and reptiles. Okay, so like here, like he's really big on listing stuff here also, right? I mean, he could have just said various species, right? But he didn't. He chose to mention them all. Why? Because then people would feel like, oh my God, all these species. That's a lot. That's a lot of species. That's a lot of species associated with their dependence on darkness, right? And then it says some examples are well known, and then blah 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 gives us some example, such as the bats, blah blah blah. Okay, ecological light pollution is like the bulldozer of the night, wrecking. Okay, so I'm looking at all the connotative diction here. Wrecking the habitat, disrupting ecosystems, several billion years in the making. Simply put, without darkness, Earth's ecology would collapse. Do you want a bulldozer wrecking your habitat and ecosystem, right? These are all desirable vocabulary, right? And what is he doing here? Like, again, he's talking about like a natural law, right? All of these species, right? All these species, they depend on darkness. Well, I guess that's a fact, right? So you can't really argue with that. What about the next part? It says, in today's crowded, louder, more fast-paced world. Okay, I hate this guy now. What is he doing? Crowded, louder, more fast-paced world? Really? Is that what you want to say about contemporary society? Is that how you want to present contemporary society? Really? I could have just said comfortable, safer, more convenient world, right? Isn't that true also? Why bother mentioning all of these, right? So now he's trying to make that contrast, right? He's really keen on making this contrast and associating these connotative dictions to things that he doesn't want to see happen, right? In today's crowded, louder, more fast-paced world, natural darkness can provide solitude, quiet, and stillness. All right, so these are opposing each other, right? Okay? See this? Quality is increasingly in short supply. Every tradition has considered darkness invaluable for a soulful life, and the chance to witness the universe has inspired artists, philosophers, and wow. Now he's talking about artists and, okay, like this guy's all over the place if you think about it, okay? Like in the beginning, he was talking about his personal experience, and then he talks about natural law, like all species, all life evolved, facts, and then he talks about the World Health Organization, and now he's talking about artists and philosophers. Right? You know, he's doing a lot of different things, okay? And everyday stargazer since time began. In a world awash with electric light, how would Van Gogh have given the world his starry night? Right? You know, like if you think about it, these arguments don't make any sense. You know, like, okay, like fine. You know, with how would have Van Gogh given the world his starry night in a world awash with electric light? Well, without electric light, how do you think we reach the productivity that we did nowadays? You know, like you could argue the same thing on the other side. Like it carries no weight actually. So what do I mean by that? Like all of these are very emotional appeals, right? It doesn't really have like a fact basis. Like I mean some, like he's mixing those appeals, right? He's mixing those emotional appeals with what? With some facts, right? It's mixing it up here. Who knows what this vision of the night sky might inspire in each of us, in our children or grandchildren. Wow, now he's talking about like children and grandchildren, and he uses the word "are." Am I married to this guy? He's talking about our children or What is wrong with this guy? Why would you use the word "are" though? Yeah.
In touch with the audience more, so like the readers.
Yeah. So this is inclusive language, saying like, yeah, we're all in this group together, right? We're here to solve this problem together. That's how he's presenting this, right? We're facing the same problem together, and as humans in contemporary society, we need to solve this problem for our prosperity, right? That's what he's doing, okay? So, you know, he's talking about a lot of different things. Usually, you know, the SAT essays, they're not like these, okay? Anyway, okay, let's go to the next part. Yet all over the world, our nights are growing brighter, okay? So he mentions all of that. He mentions all of the desirable stuff in the paragraph before, and then now he's saying, oh, but still it's growing brighter. So now he's presenting the problem, right? That now he's talking about the problem. In the United States, blah 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 blah. Now he's like, you know, what used to be a very dark country, blah blah blah, is now nearly covered with the blanket of light. You know, so he's talking about all the different problems, and I'll keep moving on. Doesn't have to be this way. Light pollution is readily within our ability to solve using new. Okay, so he's saying we can. He introduces the possibility of solving this. Okay. Well, this doesn't have. Well, by the way, this is just what he's discussing, right? These are the whats. I'm not talking about the hows, right? So you can't not talk about these in your essay, but this shouldn't be your main thing, right? You shouldn't be talking about what he's talking about. You should be talking about how he's doing it, okay? How. Already, many cities and towns growing across North America and Europe are changing to LED streetlights, right? Okay. Which offer dramatic possibilities for controlling wasted light. Okay, so he's talking about like case studies here to boost his argument here. Other communities are finding success with simply blah blah blah, which already turns off as blah blah blah. All right, so these case studies are about like successful examples, right, of them solving the problem, kind of thing, right? Though primarily designed to save energy, such reductions in light will also go far in addressing light pollution, right? Yeah, so these will solve, right? So he gives us concrete examples of how to implement some solutions. But we will never truly address the problem light pollution until we become aware of the irreplaceable value and the beauty of darkness we are losing. Okay, so that's his main point. We need to be aware of this problem, right? We need to be aware of this problem. Okay, so how are you going to write your essay? Okay, so we just looked at a bunch of different techniques, right? So we found a bunch of different techniques, and your essay basically, the name of the game is to find 3 main tactics that this guy is using, okay? Identify 3 main tactics. So choose 3 tactics, and then you're going to write a 5-paragraph essay with 3 body paragraphs, and each body paragraph discussing one of those 3 elements, okay? So it's gonna look like this. Okay, so your intro, okay, what you need to be careful in your intro is this. Get rid of your bullshit hooks, okay? I don't care about your hooks. Like, okay, let's say you read this essay, Unnatural Darkness, and it's like, oh, everybody like feels compelled to start their essay with some kind of really, you know, like I don't know what it is. It's like your I guess it's because of your middle school's teachers who told you to write hooks like in the beginning or something. But stop writing hooks, really. Like you know, I guess if your teacher tells you to write, you need a hook. Well, she's wrong. He or she's wrong, but I mean, if it's for your grade, I guess do it. But, you know, don't do it for the rest of your life now. Don't do it in college also. Like, don't do it. No one cares. Like, oh, you know, like, Steve Jobs once said, and then like, why are you doing that? Don't do that to yourself. Same on the SAT. Don't waste time on the intro. They're not going to give you points for writing a good hook. They're not going to give you points for you quoting Muhammad Ali. They're not going to give you points for writing a general, like, I don't know, whatever you guys do, just, I mean, at least in this class, don't write hooks. Just jump right into it. Just answer the question. So what's the question asking you? How does the author advance his point? How does the author advance the main point? So, I mean, you can change the sentence structure. The sentence structure doesn't matter, but you do need a main point, and you need to mention the 3 strategies that you're going to be talking about. Okay? So these are going to be each discussed in your body 1, body 2, and body 3. Okay? So let's say, for example, we chose diction and detail. I mean, I wouldn't, but and whatever kind of appeal, right? Then this is going to be your body 1, this would be your body 2, this would be your body 3, right? Good? Okay. So you're just, I mean, if you're stuck, I mean, if you feel stuck, just write, the author argues that natural darkness should be preserved utilizing a combination of connotative diction, scientific details associated with emotional appeals, or something. I don't know, like, you know, so use some more, like, use adjectives when you're describing these also, right? Don't just say utilizing diction, detail, and appeal. Like, you need to at least discuss what kind of diction he's using then, okay? So was he using like a contrast in diction, which he was, by the way, right? Or detail. Well, what kind of detail did he use? Detail regarding, you know what I mean, right? Or appeal. Don't just say appeal. Emotional appeal. Don't just say emotional appeal. Emotional appeal of what? You know, if you run out of things to say, you can discuss the what's here. You can discuss what was discussed in the passage also, right? Okay, so after you do that, okay, so how do you choose the 3 points then? How are you going to choose the 3 points? Okay, this is something that you, this is actually, okay, so now from here on, it's going to be my strategy, but my strategy's, I mean, it's pretty common sense, okay? It's pretty common sense, and I'll tell you why, okay? I'll tell you why this is important, okay? So for the first paragraph, for your first body paragraph, you always want to discuss a tactic mentioned in the first 2 paragraphs, okay? This, though, even if you're not going to follow my strategy, you should still do this, though, at least. Like, your first point always needs to pertain to the very beginning of the passage, right? Why? Because I see a lot of this, okay? So say, for example, you're reading someone else's essay, right? You're reading someone else's essay, and it says, oh, the author argues that natural darkness should be preserved utilizing blah, 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 blah. And then you go to the first body paragraph and then says, for example, in paragraph 9, what? Like, what are you doing? You're not discussing the development of the passage whatsoever then, right? But if you discuss the first 2 paragraphs in your opening paragraph, then you're forced to talk about the underlying premises of the passage itself, right? It forces you to do that, okay? So the flow is better. The organization is better, right? So the graders are going to give you higher writing scores if you do this, okay? You're forced to have a good development, like if you go in this order, okay? What do I mean? Okay, has anybody seen like a DVD commentary? Like, do you guys watch DVDs? Okay, if you don't watch DVDs, that's fine. But still, like when you legally download a movie or something like that, you can change the audio track of a movie. Did you know that? A movie has multiple audio tracks, okay? So, which means, okay, so what's your favorite movie, Matthew?
Godfather.
Huh?
Godfather.
Godfather. Okay, so first time you're watching Godfather, you're just gonna watch it, right? You're just gonna watch it. But let's say second or third time you're watching it, you want to know more about the movie by then, right? You want to know more about the movie, so you can change the audio track. And the audio track can potentially be Francis Coppola, the director, talking about the movie. So you don't hear the actors talking. You only hear them vaguely. You only hear the lines in the movie vaguely. But it's like the director, you turn on the movie, the director sits next to you, and he's talking about how they made the movie to you. They have audio tracks like that. And say, oh, you see, in that scene, it was really hard to film because blah, 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 blah. And what I intended to do in this scene was blah, 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 as you're watching the movie. So like in real time. You guys know what I mean? Yeah, so you can do that. But why am I talking about this? Because a well-written essay should read like a DVD commentary, right? It's like you should, on one hand, you should have the essay, and another have your essay. And if you read them together, it should make sense. It should flow, right? But what if your first body paragraph discusses paragraph 9? No idea what's going on, right? It has no flow whatsoever, okay? So always, in your first body paragraph, you're going to choose a strategy used in the first 2 paragraphs. First 1 or 2 paragraphs, okay? So in our case, it would be that first paragraph that was talking about my family's cabin, or that second passage talking about it presenting the problem in a contrast, or you can use the diction or whatever, right? And then your second paragraph. So this is going to be longer than your other 2 body paragraphs, okay? So this is gonna be like your main argument, okay? And what are you going to use? Okay, so yeah, you can use detail. That's always there, okay? So you can use detail, but I wouldn't do this. I would personally always stick to this juxtaposition. Regardless of what happens, regardless of what passage it is, I'm just going to say juxtaposition, always. When I'm writing an essay, I just always do this. Okay? You can use reasoning if there's heavy, like really heavy reasoning, but I still would go with this. Okay, so now let's talk about juxtapositions. What does it mean, juxtaposition? What's a juxtaposition? Yeah.
Whatever, there's A and B, and they're like really two different things. There's like a
No. Nice try. If you juxtapose something, what does that mean? No. Okay, literally, juxtaposition. It means putting two things next to each other. Okay? That's what juxtaposition means. Okay? Do they need to be the same thing? Do they need to be similar? No. Do they need to be different? No. Okay? So it's just putting two things next to each other. Okay? So think about this. Think about all the possibilities that you can say, okay? So you can say so many things if you just say juxtaposition. Okay? So some people do this. Some people say, hey, the author uses statistics, like I said, okay? So a lot of kids do this because this is too easy to spot, right? Oh, the author uses statistics. Okay, then, okay, what's the impact of statistics? What effect is the author going for? Like, okay, why is he using statistics? The only thing you can say is boost credibility, right? Okay, after this, then what can you say? Do you have anything more to say after this? He boosts credibility? You're done. That's a trash paragraph. If you just say this, you're not getting any points on this, right? So never ever do this. I don't want to see this ever because you literally have nothing to say except boost credibility. But let's think about juxtaposition. Let's think about the possibilities. Okay, so what did I say juxtaposition is? Putting two things next to each other, right? So what two things can you put next to each other? Words, first of all, right? You can put two words together, like I did earlier, natural, darkness, right? It's putting two words together, right? But it's associating this to this, right? I mean, you can argue that this is diction also, but you know, then I mean, it's the same thing basically, but you're just framing it in a different way. Anyway, well, you can do this first of all, right? And you can discuss the effects of this, and you can talk about some different examples like this. You can also discuss artificial light, right? That we talked about. Okay, what else can you put next to each other? On a more macro scale, what can you put next to each other? Sentences. You can put sentences next to each other, right? So sentence one and then sentence two, right? Let's say, well, today though, okay, so it had a sentence like this, right? All life evolved to the steady rhythm of bright days and dark nights. Today though, we are breaking those rules, kind of thing, okay? So, all right, I see a contrast here, right? So what's the effect of putting these two things together? It's as if it's implying that we're breaking those rules, right? And we feel really bad. And that's what the author wants to do, right? Okay, what about it? Then can you put two things that are similar next to each other? Yeah, sure. If you put two things that are similar next to each other, what's the effect? I mean, it's just if you're talking about the positives of studying for the SAT, and you also talk about a positive for studying for the SAT, like another additional detail, it adds up, right? I mean, if you just have one example, might be relatively weaker, but if you have two, they're gonna like have a synergy, right? They're gonna act together and they're gonna better convey your points, right? It's just going to it's a compound effect that they have. You know what I mean, right? So you can argue for anything pretty much, putting two sentences. Okay, like on a more macro scale then, what can you also argue? Paragraphs, okay? So in a previous paragraph, you can discuss, what is it? You can discuss like the emotional appeal. And then after that, you can have rather scientific facts associated with that. Then you're supplementing your emotional appeal with logical facts or something that can persuade you potentially, right? So you can frame it in any way, right? So this part, this paragraph, you need to focus on not the first two paragraphs, but like the very body part of the essay. So for this passage, it would be like from paragraph 3 to paragraph 6, right? So something like that. Okay, and then after that, what would you do? Okay, what's this last paragraph doing? This last paragraph is looking at the entire passage, right? Something that can encompass the entire passage, like the tone, attitude towards something, language or diction, right? So these are stuff that run consistently throughout the entire passage, okay? So if you do this, then you're gonna have a really, really nice essay. Like the flow, it's gonna just go. The flow is there if you just do this. Like even if you don't think about it, the flow is gonna be okay. Why? In the beginning, you're gonna be talking about the setup part of the essay. And then you discuss the main part. And then you discuss the overarching stylistic elements of the essay itself, okay? I mean, but you know, I'm not telling you to do all of these, right? The easiest one here is, of course, always diction, right? If you just talk about word choice. But then I mean, you need to kind of compromise, because if you do use diction, that will take away a little bit from juxtaposition, right? So then you would need to think about something else to discuss here. What about the first two paragraphs then? What am I going to find here? Okay, well, you can discuss the tone in the first paragraph. You can discuss the language in the first paragraph, okay? Or something else. I mean, there are some things that we haven't discussed, like imagery, right? What's imagery? Yeah.
Right. Descriptive language.
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
So when the text gives you like some kind of detail, you
No.
think of
You think of what?
an image in your head.
No.
Like
Yeah.
It's like the senses.
Yes. So it pertains to your 5 senses. Okay? Something that describes something that would appeal to your senses. Something that would actually have a taste, something that would smell, something that you can see. So all of that, right? So if it discusses the color, is that imagery? Yes, because it's about visuals, right? Okay, so why? Wait. Okay, so yeah, why would you discuss imagery then? Yeah.
To give the readers like a realistic setting.
Yeah. Why would the author want to do that for the readers then? Because, okay, think about this in terms of this then. All our SAT essay passages are going to be persuasive essays, right? They're always going to be persuasive essays. So in a persuasive essay, why would you use imagery? Okay, again, this is the feel like me thing, right? The author wants to invite the readers into his experience, right? Whatever he felt in the family's at his family's cabin, right? He wants the readers to feel that also. Why? Then they would be more likely to agree with them, right? If they felt like him. You know what I mean, right? Okay. Okay, so how are you going to write each paragraph then? How would you do that? Okay, so this is how you're going to write your essay. Okay, so this is how you're going to write your body paragraphs. So basically your entire essay. You should always be in this mode, okay? So you're going to always have a claim, and then you're going to have a reason for that claim. So you're going to support that claim. And then after that, you're going to have, you're going to discuss the consequence. Okay, what is it? This is the part that's most important to you, okay? Consequence. Most of the times people take this for granted. They don't explain it, okay? It's something like this. So if my claim, okay, I'm just going to use like a really silly example. If I say, for example, this shoe is bad, right? This shoe is bad, okay? The reason, it has holes, let's say. It has holes. Then you need to think about the consequence of this, okay? Most people take this for granted. You stop here, right? You feel like this explains it, but you need to discuss the consequence of this also, okay? What's the consequence? If it has holes, you might be cold, right? Might be cold, or you might get hurt. Do you see that? Okay? So how are we going to do this in our essay? In our essay, what's your claim going to look like? Your claim is going to be something like the author uses, right? Uses what? Uses the juxtaposition of words. Let's say, for example, okay? Juxtaposition words, okay? That's going to be our claim, right? Then what's going to be your reason? Well, you should physically find it, right? So this part should be basically quoting, right? You need to find that. You know what I mean, right? You know, you need to physically find the parts, right? You should say, in paragraph 2, he says artificial light, right? You need to find the exact part, right? And then what do? You talk about the effect of this, okay? So if by saying artificial light, he attaches a negative connotation to the word light, which he wants to argue against in his essay, right? Then, but you would need to explain that a little bit more. Why? Because usually when people think of the word artificial, right, they tend to think of blah, blah, blah. They tend to think of all the, what do you say? Like relative, something opposing the idea natural, right? Or something like that. You need to elaborate on that a little bit more. So what would your paragraph look like? So your first paragraph would be something like this, CRCRC. Okay? Do you get it? So you need to quote 2 instances and discuss 2 consequences at least. Do you know what I mean? But your main paragraph should be longer than this, okay? I'm not going to tell you how long. So this is the bare minimum that you need to do, okay? You need to always have a main claim, and then you need to at least find 2 instances of this claim, right? And then discuss the consequences of each reason. Do you get it? Okay, I'll write here. Okay, so basically, claim, reason 1, consequence of this, and then reason 2, consequence of this, That's it, right? So what are the reasons going to be? So this is the part where you find the quotes, right? So these two quotes need to be different, right? So what happens when you find statistics? It's usually just going to be that these two consequences are going to be the same. That can't happen, okay? So these consequences need to be different, or else why would you bother mentioning it twice, okay? So different consequences. But for your main part, right? If you mention juxtaposition, then you could have potentially 3 claims. Why? Because we can talk about word to word, sentence to sentence, paragraph to paragraph, right? Then it can be infinitely long, as long as you want it to be, right? What about the last part? Well, you know, make your choice, okay? I mean, you can talk. You can either do this. You can talk about the tone, talk about the overall tone, but at least and then sneakily kind of include attitude into your tone, right? You can do that, or kind of use language in there, right? It's really up to you. Okay. Any questions on this so far? Okay, so that's how you should write your essay. Okay, so since not everybody is going to take the essay, I'm not gonna tell everyone to do it. Okay, it's your choice. Okay, it's your choice. You can write this essay over the weekend, and if you do, don't give me a hard copy. Okay, share. Make a Google Doc and share it to my email. Okay? Don't give me a hard copy. Don't send me an email. You guys know how to share Google Docs, right? Yeah. Just share a Google Doc with me. This is a D. Okay, and then I'll give you guys individual feedback because this is just the basic things, but I need to see how you write in order to give you individualized feedback. And we are going to have like a essay spotlight class. I forgot when it is. I think it's sometime in July. So in that class, we're actually going to literally write the essay in class. Like we're going to do like a step-by-step thing, okay, for like a week. Okay, why don't you guys take a break? Okay, let's take a look here. Writing workbook. You need to read the first paragraph, okay? So if you skipped it, you messed up. You need to read the first paragraph, okay? We talked about this before, right? So for writing passages, the first paragraph is pretty important. It's going to determine the scope of the passage. So let's take a look. Greek yogurt has grown enormously in popularity since it was first introduced. Okay, so grown enormously since it was first introduced. So there was a time when it was first introduced, and now popularity. It's what it is, right? Okay, so let's go to the next paragraph. Next paragraph. Let's go to question number 1. Actually, why don't we just read this also? Okay, let's just read it while we're at it, because it's pretty easy, right? So sales increased. Okay, so it's talking about, it's going off of the previous idea, right? Popularity increased. So same thing, I'm not going to take a look at it. Resulting increase in blah, blah, blah has forced those involved in the business to address the detrimental effects. Oh, okay. Address the detrimental effects. So this is the cause and effect, right? So increase in popularity, we talked about this before. And then now, based on that, now they need to address the detrimental effects. What does detrimental mean? Harmful. Okay. Harmful effects that the yogurt making process may be having on the environment. And then it says, fortunately, farmers and others in the Greek yogurt business have found many methods of controlling and eliminating most environmental threats. Okay, so this is our guideline sentence. Do you see this? Why? Because this sentence, did this sentence talk about the many methods? No, it did not, right? So it's at least telling us that we will be for the, at least, I don't know, 1 or 2 paragraphs, I guess we would discuss the many methods of controlling and eliminating environmental threats. And then it says, given the solution as well as blah, 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 advantages of Greek yogurts, blank the potential drawbacks. Okay, so it gave us the subject and the object, right? But it's asking us to choose the transitive verb here. So blank. So advantages, blank the drawbacks. Okay, so advantages, do the advantages outdo the drawbacks? No. Okay, so here it's outweigh. Okay, it's saying there are more advantages than there are drawbacks, right? There are a little bit drawbacks, but these are more, so it might potentially be worth it. Okay. Okay, and then I noticed that it's a sentence order question, right? So we're talking about a sentence order. So what you need to do is you need to go to the question first, right? Go to the question first and okay, go to the question first and notice that it's asking us about sentence 5, right? So what are you going to do? So the first thing is leave out sentence 5, right? Leave out sentence 5 and just read sentence 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 6. Okay, and then after that you're gonna be thinking about the location for sentence 5. Okay, so if it is improperly, all right. So I'm just gonna pretend like you guys read all of this because you did. Okay, so let's just take a look here. What are we looking for when we're reading this sentence? Okay, when we're reading the sentence in question, we're looking for 3 things. Do you remember this? Okay. Yeah.
Transition.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And? Okay, everybody write this down again, okay? If you can't remember it in less than 2 seconds, then you need to study it again. Like, you need to memorize it again. It should become second nature to you, okay? So, what are the 3 things? Pronoun, compressive noun, transition. Okay, so let's take a look. If it, here we go, right? So we have a pronoun. So whatever that comes before this, whatever sentence that comes before this, whatever singular noun is before this is going to become it, right? If it is improperly introduced into the environment, acid actually, I lied. No, in this case, it can just refer to acid wave runoff, so it's not that. Scratch that. Sorry. Okay. If it is improperly introduced into the environment, acid wave runoff can pollute waterways. Blah blah blah. Okay, so it's talking about the negative impacts, right? So it's talking about the consequence of when acid wave runoff is improperly introduced. Okay, so now we just need to think, we need to just deal with it in terms of the content, okay? So let's take a look here. The main environmental problem is the creation of acid whey. Okay, so main problem, acid whey, because it requires up to 4 times more milk. Okay, 4 times more milk cause Greek yogurt produced large amounts of acid whey. Okay, acid whey, and then it says to address the problem. Okay, address the problem, number of uses for acid whey, and then probably going to discuss the use of acid whey. They can add it to lifestyle. Okay, so this is use number 1, right? And people can make blah 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 blah. And then sentence 6, yogurt manufacturers, food scientists, and government officials are also working together to develop additional solutions. Okay, that sounds good. So what about this then? Then this needs to be at least before sentence 3, right? Because this is when we are trying to solve this problem. But this is what? This is actually discussing the problem, right? It's talking about the consequence of what happens if you improperly introduce acid wave runoff. So I would think it's after sentence 2 for now, right? Did anybody choose B? Okay, so if you went with B, okay, I'm just thinking why you would choose sentence 1. Main environmental so it said main environmental problem, and then you chose to put it between. Okay, I don't exactly know why you did that, but the thing is, you need to connect this idea. Okay, difficult to dispose of. This idea connects to this idea, right? Since it's really difficult to dispose of, and then this needs to follow right after that. It's difficult to dispose, and if you improperly introduce that, it's going to have negative consequences, right? That's what it should try to do. So that's why it should be C rather than B. Okay, I'm not gonna go over these questions. Okay, these I think are pretty easy. Okay. Let's go to question 13. Who chose A? B? C? D? Okay. Why? Okay. Let's take a look here. Okay. The ice sheet begins to show evidence of thawing in late summer, and then this one has a back modifier. This one mentions the thawing itself. So, I mean, right now, you know that A is preferable to B, right? Because of the number of clauses, right? And this could actually modify anything. It gives us the liberty to do so because it's a back modifier, so it's likely going to be okay, right? So you should just go with A. You know what I mean? Do you know or no? Okay. Always think about the number of clauses. Okay, what about 17? Do you guys remember us talking about like many of which, some of which, all of which, that kind of thing? Yeah, that being a relative clause, right? Okay, let's take a look here. A leading box, blah, 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 tundra fires, this is the subject, from as far away, blah, 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 produced, verb, great amounts of soot, object. So we have everything that we need, right? And then it starts a sentence with some. So it's wrong, basically, unless it's a relative clause. Why? Because if I do this, it looks kind of like a dead end. Why? Because no matter what I do, it's going to end up in this format, unless I do this, some of which, right? So I need to make this into a relative clause, which would be C. Okay. Okay, what about 20? Okay, so this is a unique question. This is a one-of-a-kind question. And basically what you need to do is just answer the question. That's it. Just answer the question. The question is asking us, completes the description of the self-reinforcing cycle. Okay, I don't know. I don't know exactly what this is, but I know that it's a cycle and it happens by itself, right? I mean, I don't know how they defined it because they didn't really mention it in the passage. They just say it's a self-reinforcing cycle and then they just move on, right? All right, so let's take a look. Let's take a look and see what could potentially be a self-reinforcing cycle. So it says, as the land melts, the land and water under the ice becomes exposed, okay? And since land and water are darker than snow, the surface absorbs even more heat, which blank, right? Okay, so how would you make this into a cycle? So if I say, let's take a look. So A says, which is related to rising temperatures. Is that the underlying portion? Yeah. Which is related to rising temperatures. I don't necessarily understand how that would make it a cycle. I don't know. I mean, I don't know much about the cycle, but I still don't know. B says raises the surface temperature. How would that be a cycle? Okay. And you need to come to the conclusion, like after you read the entire, after you read all four choices, you should come to the conclusion that this is going to make it into a cycle. Why? Because if I say melt here, then this is going to connect here, and then we're going to go do this again, right? They'll turn it off. Okay, do we need to do 22? Okay, so who chose A for 22? B? C? D? Okay, so some people chose A. So what we're going to do is we're just going to look at the passage itself while leaving out sentence 4. Okay, I'm just gonna go here. Okay, Box's research is important because the fires of 2012 may not be a one-time phenomenon. Okay, important because it's not maybe a one-time phenomenon. According to scientists, rising temperatures are making northern latitudes greener and thus more fire-prone. Okay, so greener, fire-prone, so it's talking about the problem. The pattern Box observed in 2012 may repeat with harmful effects, okay? And then just gonna leave the sentence out. 5, the next step for Box and his team is to travel to Greenland, okay? Next step, travel to Greenland, okay? Blah, 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 in order to determine just how, right? Okay, so they're doing this study. Members of the public will be able to track his team's progress. Okay, there we go. All right, so now let's take a look at sentence 4. It says, Box is currently organizing an expedition to gather this crucial information. So you should stop here, right? Because this is going to be a compressive noun. So whatever that happens before this sentence, right? If there is certain information that comes before the sentence, then that's going to become this crucial information. So where can I find this crucial information? So I think I need to take a closer look because I only took a cursory look at this, okay? So let's say, for example, it stays where it is right now, okay? Then with harmful effects on the, okay, well, harmful effects, but he's probably not going to, I mean, the harmful effects are not going to be that crucial information, right? I don't think that's possible. Okay, so if you chose A, that's probably what you thought, but you should have considered the alternatives also. So it's okay if you thought that at least initially. You're thinking, okay, so the harmful effects might be that crucial information. It's okay, but you shouldn't have chosen it, right? Way too early. What about if we put it after sentence 1? Research is important. Well, no, we don't know what kind of information sentence 1 contains, so not this. After sentence 2, according to blah, 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 far more fire-prone. No, I don't think that's a crucial information. What about after sentence 5? All right, so I kind of skipped a lot here. Next, probably this one, right, then. Next step for Box and his team is to travel to Greenland to perform direct sampling of the ice in order to determine just how much the suit is contributing to the market. There we go. So this is the crucial information. So D is the right answer. Oh my God. Come on. Okay, 33, I guess. Okay, so who chose A? B? C? D? Okay. Actually, wait, no hard ones here. Okay, let's try this transition question, okay? Since we haven't done a transition question in a while. So, what do you need to do when you're doing a transition question? First thing, yeah.
Look for the relationship between the sentences.
Yeah, but how are you going to do that?
I'll look for the subject and verbs.
Not always subject and verbs. You need to look for the key phrases of each sentence, right? Okay? And then what do you need to do?
identify the relationship.
No. You need to circle them. Okay? So if you didn't circle it, you're not doing as I told you to do. You didn't do it. You didn't do it. You didn't do it. I told you guys to do it. Why aren't you doing it? Okay? So next class, if I see anybody who doesn't do this, on a transition question, if you don't circle the key phrases, you're gone. Okay? I'm serious now. Okay? I think I told you guys twice now. Honestly, do you want 30 points off your test? It won't guarantee you, like even if you seem like you're getting everything right, you might get it wrong on test day. Okay? You never know. What if that test is a -1, -30 test? What are you going to do? Just do it, okay? I'm not kidding, okay? So next time I'm going to check, okay? Next time I'm going to go around the room and check. I promise you this. I will go around the room and check, okay? So for the test, okay, so we're taking the test tomorrow, and you know how you're going back and you're reviewing the test or whatever. If I don't see you circling the key phrases, it should be by pencil, okay? Because you guys are, okay, so first time you're doing it, like on Saturday if you come here, you're solving the test by pencil, okay? And after that you review it using a blue pen, okay? I'm not talking about the blue pen, I'm talking about when you're taking the test itself, okay? So by pencil, I need to see if it's a transition question, you should circle something here and circle something here and think about now you're thinking about the relationship in terms of the key phrases, okay? Honestly, you will leave. You will, okay? Do you get it? You guys all get it. I promise you, you will leave, okay? Okay, the spaces are usually stocked with standard office equipment, okay? Spaces stocked equipment, okay? And then it talks about these, right? And then it says, in these locations, okay, well, I'm not going to read this part. I'm just going to read starting from here. The spaces often include small meeting areas. Spaces include small meeting areas, larger rooms. Okay, so think about the relationship between this. Spaces stocked with equipment versus spaces including small meeting areas. Okay, so think about the relationship between the two things. Can it be a cause and effect? Can it be a continuation?
Yes.
Can it be a contrast? Huh?
No.
No?
Yes.
It can be a contrast, okay? If I say like, if I say, the spaces do this, but they also do this, or something like that, right? On the other hand, they also have this, or something like that, okay? I mean, it is still some kind of continuation, but still, some kind of contrast is possible, but not... Okay, stop with that pen, okay? What did I tell you? Why is it so hard for you guys to listen? What's so hard? Okay, so take a look at A. A says, however. Okay, well, I'm not sure about that however relationship. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave it for now. In addition to equipment. Okay, so that's good, right? So it's saying spaces have this, spaces have equipment, and in addition to the equipment, they also have this, right? So this is pretty good. It's not for these reasons. Is it likewise though? Okay, so who chose D? No one chose D? Well, it's a continuation, but why not D? What kind of transition is likewise? Yeah, I know it's a continuation, but what kind of continuation? Didn't you guys take that test like a few times? That transition test? Okay. On Monday, okay, we're taking like a cumulative test, okay? It's not, it has nothing to do with your ability to do on the test, okay? So it's, what I'm going to be testing is all knowledge, okay? So it's all memorization. So all the things that you haven't memorized, it will be tested. I mean, not all of them, but from that, I'm going to select. Like, for example, I'm going to ask you, okay, I have a sentence structure question. What's the first thing that I should do? Then what should you say? Identify the subject, verb, and the conjunctions, right? And write it down there, right? Okay. So, and also these grammar things like transitions. If I give you a transition, you should be able to tell if it's a contrast, if it's a continuation sequence, or whatever, okay? So basically all of them, all the reading methodologies, all the grammars, everything. I mean, it's not a lot. It's not a lot, guys. But it's I mean, you guys don't remember stuff. Like you don't study. Like you just do. If you just do the passage, it's crazy, guys. It's so crazy. I don't understand. I still don't I don't know what you guys are doing. I mean, I ask you guys the same question over and over again. Every time you don't know the answer. Why are you doing the passages then? Why are you doing this? You're wasting the questions. Don't do your homework then. Do it later after you, I mean, you need to memorize all of them. Like, I can't help you with that. What kind of transition is as such?
Cause and effect.
What kind of transition is this?
Cause and effect.
What about other people? Okay. If you see a word that you don't know, at least, I don't expect you to memorize it. Okay? You may not remember it. Your memory might fail you on this sometimes. But at least you should look it up. At least there should be a definition next to it, or at least you should have a note that has a definition next to it if you don't know a word and you've done the homework. Yeah, of course, if you didn't do the passage before, yeah, of course you're not going to know the word if you don't know it. But if you looked at the passage at home, and then if I ask you what that word means, and you can't tell me, you will be leaving. Okay? I'm going to ask, I'm just going to cold call you guys. If you don't know, I mean, it's okay. You can look. I mean, you can look at the passage. You can look at your notebook. But you need to be able to tell me. I want you to look up words when you don't know what it means. Is that too much to ask? What kind of human being does that? I don't understand. What kind of human being does that? Who does that? Are you even human if you do that? I don't get it. And the rules, okay? I mean, last time, I asked you guys a bunch of rules. No one could answer. You guys all wrote it down. I asked the same thing. You guys still don't remember it. I mean, I would be embarrassed and just memorize that. I mean, it's not like the rule's even hard. Okay? But the words, okay, come on. If you don't look it up, you're gone. Okay? You don't deserve it. You don't deserve, I don't know, to go to college even. Why are you going to college? You don't know a word, you don't even look it up. Why are you going to college? Why? Aren't you even curious? Why? Okay, so look up words, please. If you don't know what it means, look it up. I'm so mad that I have to even tell you guys this. What kind of person has to tell, what kind of human being needs to tell another person to look up words if you don't know what it means? Did anybody say that in human history? Look up words if you don't know what it means? Okay, and review all key concepts. Key concepts meaning grammar and reading methodologies. Okay, so the quiz that we're gonna take on Monday, it's not going to test your ability, your testing ability. There's not gonna be an SAT passage. There's not gonna be a grammar question. I'm going to ask specifically about your grammar knowledge, whether you reviewed it or not. Okay? There's not going to be any questions. It's not about questions. It's not about problem solving. It's about the methodologies that we talked about. Okay? Yeah, that's it. What about 35? Let's take a look at 35. What kind of question is this? Okay, if you don't know what kind of question it is, don't answer me, okay? Don't shout it out. Do not shout it out, okay? If you don't know what kind of question it is, if you don't know the question type, what do you need to ask yourself? There's 3 common question types that you might suspect, okay? Who can tell me? 3 question types. Okay, those of you who don't have your hand raised, what are you doing? What are you doing? How many times do I have to tell you? How many times? I think like just this week I told you guys this, I don't know, like 4 or 5 times. 4 or 5 times and still you don't remember. And then like by the 2nd or 3rd time I told you guys to write it down. And memorize it after class. But still? Well, what's your name in the back? What's your name? Why won't you do it? Okay. All right. Okay. I just don't I can't, I don't know. I don't know. All right. So back when I was in college, okay, you know, I can't, okay, it's not one of those stories, okay? I'm not saying like not thinning or whatever. When I was in college, I went to Mongolia. It was for volunteering. I taught students there. Okay, volunteering. They wanted to learn English and they wanted to learn Koreans, like Mongolians. They look like Koreans a lot. Like you wouldn't be able to tell a Mongolian and Korean apart. Almost. They look exactly the same, okay? Actually, there's a lot of Mongolians in Korea that you don't know are Mongolians, okay? Oh, why am I telling you this? Because they study Korean and they study English because they want to go to Korea and because they want to go to school in the States, okay? And the students I were teaching, they study for, they studied really hard. Like everybody was really desperate to leave, okay? And so they either wanted to go to school in the States or they wanted to go to school in Korea. They were so desperate to leave Okay, so and you know, like something like this would never even happen in this class. Like in a class like this, nothing would ever happen. If I say something, okay, they would write it down and they would memorize it. Yeah, of course, yeah, it's okay to get questions wrong because, you know, that's based on your ability. But, you know, just when it comes to a matter of diligence, you know, this is just, it's crazy. Like I don't understand. And the fact, and the crazy thing about those Mongolians was that not even half of them could actually afford it. So most of them, they were sitting in class, but they knew based on their situation that they couldn't go. But still, just because of a slight chance that they might be able to go, they were studying. Okay? And back when I was in LA, I don't know if you guys know about this, but there's a lot of illegal immigrants. A lot of illegal immigrants in LA. Like so many Korean illegal immigrants. Okay? And these kids, you know, it's kind of unfair for them because they were actually they weren't born in the States, but they moved there when they were like 2 or 3. Just because their parents made a bad decision, they were illegal immigrants. Like they're like high school students and they're illegal immigrants, and their situation is that you know it's really hard to go to college if you're an illegal immigrant. I mean, it kind of changed because of the Dream Act and whatever, like allowing illegal immigrants to go to college or whatever. But these, I taught them SAT, you know, and I taught them for free. But whenever I teach them, you know, something like this just, you know, never ever happened. Of course they sucked, you know? Yeah, of course they sucked. Of course they got a lot of questions wrong, but they would never fail a vocab quiz because they would memorize everything. Because if I teach them a methodology, yeah, they would listen and they would do it. Okay? And so their scores would go up. Actually, there would actually be an increase. Unlike some of you, like I know some of you, you're going to get the exact same test score tomorrow because you didn't do anything. You just solved questions. That's not studying. Okay? So just study. I mean, know how fortunate you are that you can go to college to the States or whatever, like wherever you want. Like, you know, it's not something to take for granted. I don't understand you guys, okay? It's crazy what you guys are doing. And it's stupid too. Okay, take a look at question 35. So, what are the 3 types? Who can tell me the 3 types? 3 question types. Okay, Kua, what is it?
Modifier, redundancy, and word pairs.
Okay, comparison and word pairs. Okay, but okay, so who chose A here? Chose B, C, D? Okay, so if you did this, if you asked yourself this question, there's no way in hell you would have gotten this wrong. You would get this right 100% of the time, as long as you just did this. If you asked yourself if it was a modifier, okay, what would it come down to? No. Of course, it's not going to be a modifier. There is no modifier here, right? What about redundancy then? Is there redundancy? Okay. No redundancy? Okay, then ask yourself this. Comparison? Well, yeah, I do see more, but it's not one of those parallelism comparison questions. Okay? So, no. Is there a word pair? No. Then it's probably redundancy. Okay? So, I told you guys to actually put this last. Redundancy always comes last. Okay? Think about these two first. Modifier, comparison, word pairs, and then redundancy. This is a redundancy question. Why? This is redundant. Speaking. Why is this redundant? Because he is speaking. Because he is giving his opinion right now. You don't need to say that when you're giving your opinion, right? Like he says, in broad terms, philosophy is the study of meaning and the values underlying thought and behavior. What is that? Is that his opinion? No, that's just what's generally accepted, right? And then he says, pragmatically though, right? Now it's talking from a certain perspective, right? When you're doing that, you don't need to say speaking. He just said pragmatically. Speaking in a more pragmatic way is implied here, right? He's saying from a pragmatical standpoint, from a pragmatic perspective, right? So you don't need to say speaking. And you should have suspected that. Why? Because A says more pragmatically. And if you just think about the question types, okay, you would suspect that. Why? Because A is extremely short, doesn't have speaking, right? So you would think to yourself, okay, I don't know, but if I had to bet, I would bet that this is a redundancy question. And if it's a redundancy question, what's always the answer? The shortest one with the least words. I mean, you know what I mean, right? It's not going to contain, it's going to be the answer choice that does not contain that redundancy. So you would have to bet on A here, okay? So if you approach that question in a more logical way, you would have gotten it right. Okay, what about 37 then? 37. Who chose A? B? C? Everybody chose D. Okay. Okay. You will get your answers in your discussion group. I'm going to go back to reading. Okay, this is the Ken Dial passage. I don't know what page is it, what page it is. Ken Dial, birds jumping up and down, blah, blah, blah. Okay, who chose A? Chose B? C? D? Wait, who didn't do this? Why did you not do this? What? What? Okay, well, my question was who didn't do this, which you would say yes. I mean, you wouldn't raise your hand if you did do it. Okay? I asked you who didn't do this, and you raised your hand. So I asked you why you didn't do it. Okay? All right, stop it. Okay, so what should you do here? What should you do? Like, how would you go about solving this question? Okay, we talked about this specifically in class. Okay, so there's a line reference question after this, so what should you do? Yeah. Good. Good. Okay. So is this a specific question, or do you think this is a general question? It's pretty specific. Why? It gave us a term, gliding animals, right? So what should you do? Then I'm just going to go to the line reference and I'm going to physically locate this. I'm going to physically locate gliding animals. Okay? So let's go and find this. Okay, so I'm not talking about rephrasing or anything. I'm not talking about being creative. I'm talking about physically locating this. Okay? Because this is a science passage, and this, I feel like you can't really rephrase this about gliding animals. Can we physically find this? Where is this? 72 to 74. Do we have gliding animals anywhere else other than this? Okay, then this is our answer, okay? Just make up your mind that this is the answer. So 72 to 74. So I'm going to go back to the passage. It says, something gliding animals don't do, right? And thus a shortcoming of the... All right, so I'm just going to stop here because the only thing that I can know based on line 72 to 74 then is that gliding animals, what's the definition of gliding animals? They don't do something. Right? That's the definition of gliding animals for me, right? They do not do something. Okay? What's that something then? This, right? Flapping flight stroke of birds. So what's our answer then? They are not going to do the flapping flight stroke of birds. That should be our answer, which is D. Do not use a flapping stroke, right? Okay, so you guys need to do that consistently, okay? So it's easy. You should never get this kind of question wrong, okay? It's not a question of, don't think, okay? It's not asking your opinion on anything. Don't do it based on your impression of the passage or anything, okay? We just did this, right? 29, and then next was a line reference question. But it was pretty specific, right? So we went back, identified the key term, physically located it, and then excluded the wording, gliding animals, and we looked at the other parts, and we thought about what we could say about gliding animals, right? And then that's our answer, right? It's like a math question more so than reading. Okay. Okay. I would like to have more time to do this passage in class, but we'll try to do as much as we can. Okay. I'll go over this really fast then. Okay. That half the human race, blah 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 blah. All right, so do we have a subject and a verb here? No, we don't, okay? That half the human race is, okay, so we have that subject verb, okay? So it's just a noun phrase, right? Okay? It's not necessarily, it doesn't have a subject and a verb, but it has a semicolon. What does this mean? Okay, semicolon And then where do I have? Okay, I have another semicolon here. And then it says, are all political phenomena apparently impossible to blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it's probably just listing something, right? So this is the first thing that he wants to list. And then this is the second thing that he wants to list. And then this is probably the last thing that he wants to list, right? So fact number 1, 2, 3 are all political phenomena apparently impossible to explain. Right? So these are impossible to explain. Right? Okay, so let's take a look. Half the human race is excluded by the other half from any participation in government. So it's talking about probably women being excluded from the government. Right? Women being excluded from the government. Okay, so let's just say gender discrimination, sex discrimination, right? Okay, so that is political phenomena that is impossible to explain. Okay, okay, yeah, sounds fair, right? It is impossible to explain, right? Okay, and then what does he say? But on another level of ideas, the question changes and may be easily resolved. Thought he was going well for a second. I thought he was trying to say, okay, that's impossible to explain. Really, discrimination is impossible to explain. That's the first thing he said, right? This is the first thing he said, but he said, but if we think about it differently, we might be able to explain it. What? Okay. Then this guy, I thought, at least when I read up till this sentence, I thought this was going to be the guy who has common sense. This guy is going to be the guy who has a more contemporary view. But it turns out this guy is the sexist guy, right? Okay, but on another level of ideas, the question changes and may be easily resolved. The purpose of all these institutions, okay, so these institutions, so this probably means that there are institutions that are mentioned before, right? So what could those institutions be? Where's the government? Here. And what else do we have? Law. Okay. Right. So by institution, did we not talk about this when we were talking about slavery? Slavery being an institution. So by institution, it doesn't necessarily always pertain to like a physical institution or like an organization, that type of thing, like school or governments. It can also refer to some policies or stuff like that. Okay? Or some customs. So they call slavery an institution, right? It was a customary thing and also law and policy, right? So anyway, okay, must be the happiness of the greatest number. Okay, happiness of the greatest number. Happiness of the greatest number. You haven't you guys heard about this? You guys heard about this before? Utilitarianism. Utilitarianism. What's utilitarianism? Okay. You guys heard of this before. So say there's a trolley track, okay? And there's like this huge trolley going this way. And then there's like 3 people. Let's actually say 4 people. So 4 people are just tied to the track here, okay? So if this just keeps on track, they're all gonna die. But you're standing here on the side, okay? And there happens to be a switch over here. If you pull this lever, this is actually gonna change course and go this way, okay? Actually gonna go this way, and on this side, there's only one person here. And this person is going to die. Would you change it? Okay, so who would change it? You would change it? You guys would all change it? More people would change. Okay, so, I mean, there's no for an answer. Okay, so this is A, this is B. So who would go with A? Yeah, just leaving it. Who would go with A? So you guys would let 4 people die? Why? Why would you let 4 people die?
And if I turn away from him, I'm literally killing that person if I don't try to this way.
Okay, so you don't want to perform that action. Okay, fair point. Okay, well, why would you, Matthew? Why would you why would you pull the lever then?
Because 4 more people dying can cause more tragedy than just
Really?
one person dying. Because you have to think
Wait.
about there's 4.
What if
These people have families, so like.
what if you know the name of this person? It's Bob. It's Bob here. Still, you would still kill Bob?
Yeah, it's for the greater good.
Really?
Yeah.
It's for the greater good.
Yeah.
Then what about this then? You have 4 people in the hospital. Okay. They're all dying. This person needs a heart. This person needs a kidney. This person needs an eye, or this person needs a brain, or whatever, right? They all need different parts, okay? And then, but they're all gonna die within an hour or 2 if you don't do anything about it. You're the doctor, and then while you're debating what to do, you're just like, oh, what do I do with these people? And then a healthy person walks in. So you're saying you're going to kill this person to save these 4 people?
Yeah,
Yeah?
of course.
Wow. This healthy person, you're going to kill this healthy person to save 4 sick people?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, there's like. It's,
Okay, everybody stay away from Matthew. What?
And that's assuming that these 4 people will come back to society and they're going to perform as healthy functioning people. So you get basically 4 in 1.
Okay, everybody stay clear of Matthew. This okay, anyway, that's what you're saying is exactly this. Utilitarianism, okay? Greatest amount of happiness for the greatest number of people. That's utilitarianism. So that's what this person is saying, right? We always want to maximize that. Everything that leads us farther from this purpose is in error, okay? Everything that brings us closer is truth. Okay, so it's just saying that's right. If the exclusion from public employments decreed against women leads to a greater sum of mutual happiness, okay, so this person is assuming if that leads to a greater happiness. If not including women is going to lead to a greater amount of happiness, then this becomes a law that societies have been compelled to acknowledge and sanction. Okay, sanction. Sanction can mean 2 rather different things. Okay, so on one hand, we can have sanctions like the USA placing economic sanctions on North Korea or something like that. That would mean something prohibiting something, or like a limiting factor or something like that. But if in this case, it's used with acknowledge, right? Acknowledge and sanction. So in this case, it would mean allow, right? So it's kind of a weird word. It can mean 2 very opposite things based on the context, okay? Okay, so anyway, this person was doing what? Okay, so in the very beginning it said, hey, I really can't explain this, right? It's really hard to justify why women are being discriminated. And then he said, but if you think about it another way, if you take this kind of point of view, right? If you take the utilitarian point of view, then if excluding women is going to lead to a greatest number of happiness, then we should probably do that. It's probably justified, right? Okay. Let's go to the next part. Any other ambition will be a reversal of our primary destinies, and it will never be in women's interest to change the assignment they have received. Okay, so it's going off of the point that was mentioned before, right? I mean, wanting otherwise would be going against our destiny, right? It seems to us incontestable that, okay, so it seems you can't argue against this. What? Our common happiness, above all that of women, requires that they never aspire to the exercise of political rights and functions. Huh. Okay, it says our and they, right? Think about this, okay? So who does this refer to? Our common happiness. Does this include women or no? Yes? Our common happiness above all that of women. It does not, right? So it's just talking about men's happiness, okay? So men's happiness requires that women never aspire to the exercise of political rights and functions, right? Men's happiness requires that women don't aspire to be in office, okay? So he is sexist, right? And then it says, here we must seek their interests in the wishes of nature. Yeah, but it's not like he hates women or whatever, right? He says, yeah, but we must seek their interest, right? We must seek their interest. Is it not apparent that their delicate constitutions, their peaceful inclinations, and the many duties of motherhood set them apart from strenuous habits and onerous duties and summon them? Okay, so these are the opposing ideas, right? On one hand, you have women's delicate constitutions, peaceful inclinations, and the many duties of motherhood, right? So we talked about this before. Constitution used as body, right? So women's delicate constitutions, that would mean their delicate bodies, right? Their relatively more delicate bodies and their peaceful inclinations and the duties of motherhood versus what? Strenuous habits and onerous duties, right? So that's going to be in contrast. And that is going to summon them to gentle occupations, right? Okay, so we'll finish this passage next time. And for tomorrow's test, make sure you do this. Do the history passage last. Okay? Please, do the history passage last. Those of you who didn't listen last time, please, I beg you, okay? Do the history passage last. I don't know how you guys are going to listen anymore because you guys just don't. So please, all right? Just do that. Erica and Jeannie, they'll tell you the homework once again. And for today's session, you should make notes of what you don't remember and that kind of stuff, right? The reading methodologies, the vocabulary and everything. We're also going to have a cumulative vocabulary test from the very beginning on Monday. So also that, okay? They'll let you know, okay? They'll let you know. Okay, any questions? All right. Just review, guys. Just review and your score is going to go up. I guarantee you that. But if you don't, I can't guarantee anything. Okay? Okay, you can leave your book there. If you have any questions, you can come ask me now.